Billionaire Peter Thiel is back in the news again after the internet kind of went crazy when the tech news outlet Wired received and reported on leaked information about an elite private club that Thiel founded called Dialog. That's D-I-A-L-O-G. Conspiracy theorists jumped on Dialog right away. After all, many people consider Peter Thiel a dangerous extremist figure with an authoritarian or even fascist bent. At the very least, people consider him eccentric.
His entire, I think, self-image is that of somebody who's, has a contrarian vibe.
That's Fritz Espenlaub, a German tech journalist with BR, Bavarian Broadcasting, part of the German national network ARD. Fritz has reported extensively on Peter Thiel, and in case you don't know who Peter Thiel is, and as you'll see, he's many things, but he accumulated his wealth as a co-founder of PayPal and the defense company Palantir, and was an early investor in Meta, or Facebook as it was known back in the day. Now, with Dialog, Fritz says this weekend retreat that has attracted politicians from U.S. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent to Germany's own senior member of parliament, Jens Spahn, plus celebrities such as Joseph Gordon-Levitt and Josh Brolin, and says that Thiel has always had an interest in big ideas.
He's not afraid, so I'm, paraphrasing what I think is Peter Thiel's self-image. He's not afraid to hold opinions that to him, he derives them from thinking and that are shocking to others. To him, this is more a sign that these are maybe actually the correct opinions, because most of what he considers to be the mainstream opinions, in his view, are wrong or are not, thought through.
And so Thiel launches Dialog. Well-known people who would otherwise get mobbed if they showed up to a TED or South by Southwest conference as an audience member, not a panelist, can gather instead in an off-the-record setting.
My honest opinion, I don't see anything particularly problematic about it. I mean, there's obviously a lot of criticism right now in terms of what happens there. Is it weird that politicians are meeting these business people? But if you actually look at the world, there's lots of events where politicians and business people meet, and lots of also non-public events that we don't think are that controversial. But at the end of the day, it's kind of a regular convention. So there's different speakers, different panels, different workshops. And the difference to the regular convention is that it's a lot more exclusive.
Still, the leaked information raised some eyebrows with the names of sample panel discussions such as Bring Back Nuclear, Navigating World War III, or Build a Cult.
Here is a space where you can speak about, issues that you will not be able to speak about in mainstream venues because they're too provocative or too contrarian. And here is where the real, thought leaders of the sort of there's this term of the intellectual dark web, which was coined some years ago. Here's where you will find these voices that, inspire you in some way that you won't get anywhere else. So what to a lot of people sounds like science fiction, like transhumanism, like how can we evolve as humanity beyond, where we are right now? What kind of moral changes could happen or will happen in the future? How does AI, how do body modifications change what it means to be human?
Peter Thiel is known to be libertarian, which takes a politically maximalist position on personal freedoms and a minimalist position on the role of government. So the idea that he founded a conference premised on debate isn't that surprising.
He's a very unusual person. A lot of billionaires. Thiel has a lot of money now because a lot of his investments worked out quite well. And if you look around at the world today, a lot of billionaires basically just, hang out on their yacht and just, maybe do some philanthropy and call it a day. Peter Thiel really, in a way, I guess he has this kind of main character energy, I think, would some people say. So somebody who considers himself to be something of a philosopher. He writes essays. He goes to conventions where he gives speeches on philosophy, on concepts that people find unusual. He talks a lot about the Antichrist and about Armageddon and about like all these ideas that when you really look at them closely, maybe in not all cases are that controversial. Sometimes he just means that he's against regulation, but, kind of like clothes it in some colorful language. But it is something that I think surprises a lot of people. And obviously, there's a lot of people who also are very skeptical when it comes to his political influence, because he played such a role in getting the support of parts of Silicon Valley behind Donald Trump.
So there's that. It's what makes some people suspicious of Thiel. He was an early supporter of Donald Trump, and while a libertarian, he's also considered conservative, even far-right, given the Republican Party's base. And in the United States, billionaire money plays a role in politics. Still, Fritz says, not so fast.
I think his influence on politics is maybe a little bit overestimated sometimes at this point. So we clearly he has tried to influence politics, especially during the first Trump administration. He actually, was part of the first Trump transition team. He made a lot of suggestions where to place people in different government agencies. In some ways, he, espoused some of the ideas that Doge later did with way more radicalism, but he wasn't very successful with that. So he wasn't able to really affect, the actual politics of the first Trump administration in a major way. And one has to actually say that after that, he kind of pulled back from politics a little bit. Yes, he did fund J.D. Vance. Yes, he did introduce J.D. Vance and Donald Trump to each other, or kind of, brokered some kind of peace between them. But in terms of like actual policies, if you look at the way the Trump administration is behaving, it's not really that much like Silicon Valley is not actually that happy about it or can't be that happy about it.
One thing about the list of participants or speakers at Dialog is that while it leans more libertarian, they do come from across the political spectrum.
If you look at the list of speakers, there's like such a variety. There's people like, Steven Pinker, who's totally opposed to Donald Trump. There's people like Ezra Klein, well-known liberal left-wing journalist. There's all kinds of people that are, on the ideological spectrum, located somewhere completely different than Peter Thiel and than some other speakers. So I think if this really was some kind of grand conspiracy, it just wouldn't work with this list of people. Like for a conspiracy to kind of like, to unify for some nefarious purpose, you need a basis of trust. You need to work together in some way, and I don't think that this would be the case if you look at this cast of characters.
So Fritz has really put this Dialog conference in context, but it's been interesting to see the global coverage over these leaked documents, including here in Germany. Fritz's take on this is that, at least in the German context, there's both a fascination and a competitive fear of Silicon Valley and American dominance in the international tech world.
There's a huge interest in Germany when it comes to the tech right, when it comes to Peter Thiel, when it comes to American tech companies. And a big reason for that is because Europe and Germany in particular is very dependent on these tech companies. So we don't have our own big tech corporations that are able to, stand up and compete on the same ground with, something like Google or Facebook or Palantir. We don't have European social networks. We don't have frontier AI labs. So in some way, our strengths are maybe in different areas, maybe in robotics. I'm not saying we don't have any high tech at all, but in particular, when it comes to these tech companies, these big tech companies out of Silicon Valley, we do know in Germany and in Europe that we rely on them a lot. Also, when it comes to critical infrastructure, right? So there's a reason to be very skeptical when there's any suspicion that these companies might not have our best interests in mind. And I think this is quite obvious that these are companies, especially under the second Trump administration, that are, not really concerned with Europe. Peter Thiel himself often says that he doesn't really think about Europe. I mean, he was born in Germany, but obviously he's an American investor, and he's more on the right side of the political spectrum. So he's a lot more willing to say that his main priority is the flourishing of the United States. And now we have a president that very clearly, very obviously puts the United States above Europe, and even seeks confrontation with Europe. So we're very aware in Germany that we have some vulnerability there, which explains a heightened sense of, and I think that's appropriate to have this heightened sense of suspicion when it comes to the tech right and their power that they have over us.
And there you have it. This unease about US big tech and billionaire influence on governments. An event like Dialog underscores Thiel's interest in intellectual pursuits, sure, but he's not someone who's retreated into a mansion to become a philosopher king. He's out there, making money, talking utopia, while investing in and profiting from what many consider dystopia. Some food for thought. So what's your take on Peter Thiel? Is he an admirable, unconventional thinker, or someone whose ideas pose a threat to democracy? I hope you like this video. Subscribe to our channel if you want to see more deep dives like this one. I'm Melissa Chan. Until next time.